Joining us for this session at Springdale today is Graham Mynatt, who's joining us via Zoom. Graham is a Springdale Public Schools graduate who is a bass trombone fellow with New World Symphony in Miami Beach, Florida. He's going to share a little bit of his story today and help us get to know him and understand how he ended up so far away from home. Graham, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get to know you a little bit. You grew up in our schools. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Yeah, so I, of course, went to the Springdale Public Schools. I was born and raised in Springdale, so my parents still live in the same house that I grew up in. And I started playing trombone in 7th grade at Hellstrom Middle School with Julie Huffman as my band director, and I believe she's still there. And so started playing trombone there. I actually almost played French horn, but I went back a second day to miss class for a little bit to try more instruments. And then one of the band directors, Chris Shelby, told me that I made a really good sound on trombone, and so I switched my name from French horn to trombone. And then continued into junior high at Central Junior High, which I believe they just got a new building, which I'm excited to go see at some point because I think there's a new band room. It's kind of wild how much Springdale has grown, and now Central Junior High is a completely different school than when I was there. But I played tenor trombone still through 8th and 9th grade. And in 9th grade, I was first chair in the all-region band for junior high. And then into high school, my parents actually bought me a really nice tenor trombone from a Har-Ber High School alumni. And then I asked to switch to bass trombone, which they were not super happy about. But I still play that tenor trombone. I'm actually playing that this weekend on an opera that we're performing at the New World Symphony. So it's not going unused. But I switched to bass trombone my sophomore year of high school at Har-Ber High School, where Jeremy Ford's the band director.
All right, and then did you graduate from Har-Ber?
Yes, so I continued. I was at Har-Ber High School all 3 years and enjoyed performing there and being in the marching band. That's I think a really big part of just the Springdale band program is just how big the marching bands are at Springdale High School and at Har-Ber High School. And then my senior year, I auditioned for the all-state bands. I had auditioned in the past, and my junior year I was first alternate for the all-state bass trombone side of things. But then my senior year I jumped from first alternate to senior being first in the state. And so put a lot of practice time in that senior year and had a lot of extra time to practice as well.
Well, hopefully that made that expense of another trombone a little bit less of a heartache for your parents. So what was it like growing up in Springdale schools as part of the band program?
I mean, it's the good kind of intense. Like I remember, I think Tuesday afternoon rehearsals, if I'm remembering right, maybe it was Thursdays. But Tuesday afternoon rehearsals going late into the evening, and then getting up early every single morning for marching band rehearsal as well. I was a part of the loading crew for 2 years, 2 years. And so I would get there extra early to help set up everything. And so I think marching band would start at 8 a.m., but I get there at 7 a.m. to start getting things to the field. I'd also use a little bit of that time to practice before everybody else got there as well. And so it's just a lot of intense dedication to the craft of marching band. And then also Mr. Ford was very focused on concert season and saw marching band as something that led into concert season. The discipline that you needed for marching band, you then applied to the concert season. So that was the thing that I think I enjoyed most, was once marching band was over, which was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work, but playing the amazing music that we would play during concert season.
You know, there's an app they use now to orient the marching band on the field. Can you believe that?
I never used that in high school, but we started using a similar program when I was at college. I forgot what it was called, but I remember. I think my college band director was one of the ones that actually helped uh, produce the app, or at least help test it a little bit.
Well, that's kind of cool. All right, so why the trombone? What was it about the trombone that you said this is my instrument?
hmm well, of course, it was the Mr. Shelby telling me that I made a good sound, and so my pride kind of took over. It's like, well, if I have a good sound, then I should play that instrument. But it's just such a fun, quirky instrument with the slide. Like growing up as a kid, you hear the wah 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 noise, and that's the trombone. And then just like random glissando, but also listening to it in band and now in orchestra, it's also one of the most epic instruments to play in the orchestra. Uh, there's not a lot of solo moments, but there are a few. But really, it's just whenever the entire low brass section is um, projecting their sound all the way to the back of the hall, playing really loud, and pieces by composers like Wagner. Uh, Brahms has some really great chorale moments. It's just the sound of the low brass section is so epic, and other times a warm hug, that it's just something I really enjoy doing and I enjoy listening to a lot.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I've just been researching just a little bit as a part of preparing to chat with you today, and I've decided that the trombone looks like a simply complicated instrument to play, um, because it's positions that you're going to, and seems as though you need to use your ear to make sure you're using the right position amidst everybody else around you.
Right. Well, it's both complicated and simple. Just because like there's not the valves that are intricate in their own way. The trombone was the first fully chromatic instrument that was in the brass family. That was centuries ago, but then valves were continued to be used on other instruments. But the trombone was the first uh, chromatically available instrument at the time when it was first made, when it was called the sackbut. Um, but um, the positions are both, you have to use your ear to make sure you're like perfectly in tune in the right position. But over the years, you develop muscle memory to know exactly where each position is. So like I know first position is right all the way in, and then second position is a couple inches out in between the bell and first position. Third position is near the bell at the front end, and then fourth position is right after the bell. Fifth and sixth and seventh are the ones that are a little bit of no man's land to an extent, where we always complain the intonation's harder or things like that. But it's a lot of muscle memory and also using your ear. It's not dissimilar to an extent to playing like a violin or a cello, because they don't have specific fingerboards like a guitar. So they have to have the muscle memory to know exactly where their fingers go, and then the ears to know exactly they're in tune in that right position.
And I think it was simply complicated to play.
Yeah. Sorry, a little over explanation of what it is.
No, I'm glad. That's one of the things that's great about journalism and doing podcasts is I'm getting smarter every day. So thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. Now, tell me, what was it as a part of the band program at Har-Ber? Do you have any memories that stand out to you?
Hmm. I do remember, I think it was my junior year, we did the Bill Chase show, which Har-Ber has done twice now, I believe. My year was the second iteration of it. I think it was the anniversary of performing it or something like that. Maybe it was the anniversary of Har-Ber's, like the 10-year anniversary of Har-Ber. And so they did their biggest show that they had done. And so there's a big trombone solo in that show in the marching band, and so I auditioned for it. Usually it was a tenor trombone that would play the solo, but I said I wanted to do it, and so I played the solo on bass trombone, and I think that's one of my most memorable moments in the marching band.
Why is that?
Just because I was featured in the marching band, and bass trombone doesn't always get a feature, and so that was a lot of fun. And I to an extent, I do enjoy the spotlight a little bit, and so I enjoy soloing and being heard.
Sure, sure. Now, could you ever have imagined, though, that you would have had an entire career built around music when you picked up that trombone at Hellstern all those years ago?
Yeah, definitely not something I was planning on when I first picked it up. I did realize probably in junior high, um, because my band directors there were so fantastic, and really the band directors throughout my entire time at Springdale schools are amazing. But and they did so well working with me, and kind of nurturing my love of music. And so that's when I realized I wanted to do something in music. But I thought the only possibility that was available to me was being a band director. I didn't think you could play your instrument professionally. I didn't know that I had the opportunity to do that. And so, really going into college at the University of Central Arkansas, that was my goal. I started a music education degree, and I did finish that degree. But partway through my time at UCA, I realized that performance was a career possibility and a career goal for me.
Did music factor into your ability to attend college at all, as far as scholarships or anything of that nature?
Yeah, most definitely. I being a part of the Bear Marching Band at UCA, I received a scholarship, and being a music major there, I received a scholarship. So that probably accounted for half my tuition at UCA, and then the rest was educational, um, scholarship, things like that. And then my parents also helped a little bit too.
What's it like being part of a college band? I imagine it takes a lot of dedication. I mean, because it's the whole year, it's every season, right? It's basketball, it's football. I imagine it's a lot of fun and a lot of work too.
It is a lot of fun, and it is a lot of work, especially when you know that you're like you get a scholarship for it, but also a little bit of that scholarship goes back into taking the class, and it's only worth 1 credit hour on the schedule, but you're really putting in 5 to 7, if not more, hours a week rehearsing, because you're rehearsing every single afternoon for marching band, and then you also have the games on the weekend. So it's a lot of time and a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And we don't travel as much as like the University of Arkansas, but we would go on a few away games and a few trips around the state into different marching competitions, like high school marching competitions, to do a show for them. So that was always a lot of fun. And then actually, after my freshman year at UCA, I decided that I kind of wanted to only play bass trombone in the concert setting and in solo settings. Partly because I'm playing so loud on the bass trombone that it was kind of making it harder to practice it outside of marching band rehearsals. My face was a little tired, and so I switched to the sousaphone just because it's a little less taxing on the face, and it's a little bit different. And so sophomore through senior year, I marched sousaphone at UCA, which is a lot of fun.
That doesn't even sound, it sounds like Dr. Seuss's instrument in itself, just in its name. Right, so I understand you started teaching following college?
Mhm. I actually taught a little bit during college, teaching private lessons to students in the Greenbrier Public Schools, and in Conway Public Schools, uh, where UCA is located. And so I taught quite a few students during that time. One of them, she was named first band, first chair for all state on bass trombone her senior year. So it felt like I was kind of like passing the baton on to an extent. And then I then went on to get a master's at the university, or at Indiana University, and I continued to teach there. So I didn't go directly into like teaching public school. I did have an internship at Perryville Public Schools during my time at UCA, and so got to teach there. But that was cut short a little bit because of COVID, because I was interning spring of 2020, which is right when everything hit, and so that was a difficult transition, but we made it work. And then I went on to IU and taught lessons there as well. And then in a third year before I came to the New World Symphony, I was asked to be the associate instructor of trombone there, and taught lessons and helped run the trombone choir at IU.
All right, and then how did you end up at New World Symphony all the way in Miami Beach, Florida?
So the dean of admissions came and did like a Q&A session at IU. He travels to a lot of the conservatories and larger music programs around the country to do those kind of sessions, and he explained that they hold auditions every single year, but they if somebody leaves in the middle of the season because they win a job, they don't wait to hold another audition. They'll hire off of their sub list, and so I kind of hedged my bets and saw an opportunity there because I knew the bass trombonist that was my predecessor here. He was actually a U grad as well. We never went to school at the same time. He left and I came in. But I knew he was close to winning a job, so I kind of planned accordingly and took the audition that year, hoping that he would win a job and I would be possibly at the top of the sub list. And the bet paid off. And last November, I got an email during another audition, so it kind of ruined that audition because I was so excited. But I got an email asking if I wanted to move to Miami Beach in January to start halfway through the season.
Alrighty, and can you help us understand what New World Symphony is and what it means to be a fellow as a part of their program?
Yeah. So the New World Symphony is a educational institution that provides fellowship opportunities to 87 to 90 musicians from all around the world. We have musicians from Korea, from China, from Canada, from the US, from France, I believe, as well. And so people are coming from all around the world to be a part of this program. And so the fellowship lasts 3 years, or until you win a job. And you're having the same schedule as a normal orchestra. So we're rehearsing a concert starting on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then performing that concert Saturday, Sunday. So a really quick turnaround, and that's every single week. We're performing a new concert. And then also being a educational institution, they're bringing in some of the best musicians from around the world to work with us for free on our end. Like they're covering the cost to fly them in and to teach us and work with us, so we can then have a better chance of winning one of those top orchestra or band jobs in the country or in the world. Really, New World is producing leaders in the world's top orchestras and top bands.
You've used the term win a job more than once. Is there something unique about getting work from the symphony, or what does that term exactly mean for you?
It's a little bit of anxiety, like thinking that I have to win something. And every job there is an application process. Like outside of music, there's an application process, and technically there is a winner in that after a lot of interviews. The process for orchestra is not dissimilar to that, but also there's some added things. So usually with orchestra jobs, there is an application process. So you send in your application. If they see you have enough experience, then they'll invite you to the preliminary round. If they don't see that there's enough experience on it, then they'll ask for a tape to see if they want to invite you to the preliminary round. Then after that, there's usually 3 rounds, sometimes 4 rounds. So you have the prelims, and you'll have maybe 75, maybe less, maybe more musicians all trying to go for, in my part, one job. Because there's only one bass trombonist in an orchestra. And then they'll have the semifinal round where they might advance 5 people, they might advance 20 people, it depends. And then there'll be a final round, and sometimes there'll be even a super final round if they still can't decide. And so they're trying to deduce a list of 75 people down to one person, and you're playing your instrument and playing excerpts from different orchestral and band pieces to prove that you deserve that job, to win that job. You're competing against all of those different people, similar to how like the all-state process works in Arkansas and other states. You're playing your etudes and trying to get the best score to be first in the state.
That's really interesting, and I can appreciate why you say win the job. You're literally, it's a competition. Wow. That's got to be very stressful and sometimes a long process, right?
Yes, well, and like there's many cases where really gifted musicians win a job the first audition they take. That doesn't happen often, but there are stories where that does happen. But many times it's 15 auditions, 20 auditions, 30 auditions, 40 auditions. Like it could take only one, or it could take a lot. And so that's I think that's part of the stress of it is really it's um, luck kind of meets where hard work and talent combine. And so you got to have that little bit of luck, but you also have a lot of that preparation, that hard work, and that time that you have to put in to try to win that final job. Yeah.
Now, you were in Indiana for a spell, but most of your time has been in Arkansas. What has the transition been like from growing up in Arkansas and then now living and learning in Miami Beach, Florida?
Yeah, really the transition from Arkansas to Indiana wasn't that dissimilar. The people are very similar. The landscape is very similar. There's a little bit of more flat land getting up to Indiana, but there's still some like good hiking and good outdoor things. And like the cities aren't super big. Indianapolis is pretty big, but besides that, Indiana feels very similar to Arkansas. A lot of the towns, like Bloomington, felt very similar to Northwest Arkansas, especially Fayetteville. I'd say Fayetteville and Bloomington are very similar towns. But Miami Beach is a whole other animal. It's definitely the first big city my wife and I have lived in. It was kind of a culture shock to get used to, but it's been a lot of fun, and there's such good food and good things to do. We have the beach, and so it's been a really fun transition. But it's a lot of people, and I still am not fully used to hearing car horns constantly, or like when I'm at the light and the light just turned and the person behind me honks at me when it just changed to green. So it was a little bit of a shock, but it's been a lot of fun.
A lot of amazing Cuban food down in that neck of the woods.
Yes.
Right. So, what has the experience been like then, being with the symphony? How's it been going for you in these months?
It's been really great. I came in halfway through the season, but was very quickly like accepted into the group, kind of, and like made a lot of good friends. The one interesting thing about New World is they provide housing for all of the fellows, and so they own an apartment complex on Miami Beach, and so there's no way that we could afford to live on Miami Beach. The rent here is so crazy high, but luckily New World covers that, and so having a free place to stay with all of your friends and all of your colleagues has been a lot of fun. So I get to hang out with my friends and the other members of the low brass section, and work with them both at the hall but also at the apartments.
All right. So, what are you doing beyond the New World Symphony? Is there anything that you're doing as far as your own personal pursuits with music?
So coming up soon, I'll actually be back in Arkansas, but at UCA. And so my teacher, Justin Cook, asked me to come back as the trombone guest artist for their annual Low Brass Day. So that was an event that that I was a part of, that I helped plan for many years while I was at UCA. And so it's kind of an honor to go back and be the guest artist for that. So that will be coming up November 9th. And so working on that is my current project. It's just working on a lot of solo rep and making sure I'm ready to work with the amazing students there. Besides that, it's mostly focusing on performing every single week here, preparing new concerts every single week. So I try to stay 2 weeks ahead of the concert schedule, and then also just preparing auditions, trying to win that job.
It sounds like there's no end to the planning and the performing. It comes to cycle. So are there any moments then as a part of the symphony so far that have really stood out to you, that have really meant a lot to you?
Yeah, there's been quite a few. I'll probably talk about three. Um, so the first was so when I first came to the New World Symphony, the first concert on my schedule was Beethoven 9, which is a pretty regularly asked excerpt for the bass trombone during auditions because it's a solo with the choir, and so I'm accompanying the tenors and the male voices, and so uh, playing that as my first concert, the first time playing Beethoven 9 and playing it with the New World Symphony was really fantastic and something that I didn't imagine doing so soon. And the next would be last season we played Revoltes or Sylvester Revoltes's La Noches de las Mayas, and on that I didn't actually play the bass trombone. I played the conch shell uh, or the caracol, which is what the part called for. And so in that, I joined the percussion section, and there is a long percussion cadenza where each member of the percussion section had a solo, and then I finished the cadenza with my own solo to then bring the orchestra back in. And so that was a really fun thing to do on not my instrument. And then most recently, the New World Symphony had their season opener a couple weeks ago for this current season, and we performed Michael Tilson Thomas's From the Diary of Anna Frank. And so that piece was written by the original, the first director of music for the New World Symphony. Michael Tilson Thomas kind of had the New World Symphony as his brainchild and helped create it. And now we have Stefan Deneuve, who is the artistic director of the St. Louis Symphony and also our artistic director of the New World Symphony. And so he conducted Michael Tilson Thomas's From the Diary of Anna Frank. And I had a very extended bass trombone solo at cadenza in that piece, probably the longest bass trombone solo in all of the orchestral repertoire. Which I had no idea about this piece until it was on our docket to perform, and I looked at it and was like, oh, I need to make sure that sounds good. And so that was a lot of fun to work on. And then one really great thing from that concert was we actually had Daisy Ridley, the Star Wars actress that played Rin, or Rey, that played Rey from the most recent Star Wars trilogy. She came and did the narration for that piece because it has some of the diary read while the orchestra is performing. So Michael Tilson Thomas kind of orchestrated the piece around different parts of the diary.
That is really neat. And you've shared some of that with us, and we're going to be sure to share what performances we were given permission to share with listeners at the end of this. And I really look forward to hearing it. And those just sound like exciting experiences. And I'm so grateful that you shared them with us. Now, is there anything that you think you'd want to share with us, Graham, that I haven't thought to consider that you really want to make sure you communicate to people?
I can't think of anything like me personally, but I do just remember like being a band student at Har-Ber and in Springdale, and just knowing that like music is such a fantastic career to pursue, and no matter what you do, whether that just play in the band and then put your instrument down, or if you continue into college and play marching band, or if you decide to teach or even perform, that it's such a worthwhile pursuit to do, and it's something that will stay with you the rest of your life, no matter how long you do it.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate it. And Graham, thank you for spending time with us today. I hope that you have an amazing day. I hope everything on November 9th goes smashingly for you, and I look forward to listening to the pieces that you've shared with us today.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Graham, you have an amazing day, and thank you so much again.
Thanks. You too. Have a good one.
You too. I hope you'll stay with us for a few more minutes as we listen to the pieces that Graham just described to us, and we can hear exactly how talented he is.
Springdale Today is a production of the Springdale Public Schools Communications Office.
The podcast is hosted by Mary Jordan and is produced and edited by Micah DeLacy.
Be sure to subscribe to Springdale Today for free on your favorite podcast platform.
And don't forget to follow Springdale Today on social media for episode updates
and behind-the-scenes conversations.
Thank you for listening. We hope you join us in the future as we continue to learn about the amazing stories happening in Springdale today.